Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Twisha from Study Planet, and today we are gonna continue with the chapter Nutrition in Animals, and today we are gonna cover the part 4. Alright, so now let's start with this part 4. So our first topic, that's gonna be absorption. We're gonna study about it. Okay, so as in the last video I told you that in parts 3 and 4 we are gonna study about each part of the digestive system personally, like in detail. So today here we are gonna study about absorption and then assimilation now. Okay, so in absorption we are gonna study about one of the part of the small intestine, that is the villi. Alright, so this is the villi. Now villi helps to increase the surface area for absorption of digested food. So before coming on to this point, first let me tell you what is villi. Villi is something, a finger like projections inside the small intestine, so that for absorbing the digested food. Okay, so once the food is digested, so that digested food has to be absorbed in somewhere. Okay, so this is the part where it is absorbed, right? Now villi helps to increase the surface area for absorption of digested food. So this is basically that why it helps. Okay, next comes each villus has a network of thin and small blood vessels close to its surface. That is, each this has a network of the blood vessels, okay, so that it could transport all the digested food throughout the body, right? So that's a network, and the digested food passes into the blood vessels through the process of diffusion. So by diffusion it is transported to the blood vessels, from the blood vessels to the blood cells in our body. And that method, about that we are going to study in detail in the next chapter, that is transportation in animals. Alright, so first let's complete this chapter. So after absorption, the next process that comes is assimilation, right? Now after the absorption, digested food molecules are carried by the bloodstream to the blood cells. Okay, so it goes through the bloodstream. Okay, and from the bloodstream it goes to the blood vessels. Okay, now there are two parts, okay, in which we can use the molecules, the digested food molecules. Okay, so the food molecules can be used in two ways, right? One is by using it, and the second one is by storing it. Okay, now storing it basically for future use, right? But using also for two things. So the two things are, you can say, for in the usage, that for the growth or repairing, okay, or repairing the body tissues. Okay, the second part, you can say, for usage is to generate energy. Okay, now storing, you all know the literal meaning also, that is to store something to keep up for future use, right? So basically storing is that, so I don't need to explain, I think. Now let's go to the next point, that is glucose is used for energy. So basically you might have seen some doctors, or you might have also heard that doctors give glucose when a person has fainted, or when a patient has fainted, okay, to give it energy. Okay, so the same way we also get energy by glucose. So this carbohydrates, you might know that carbohydrates are give us energy, and fats also give us energy, but a lot of fats are not good. So carbs give us energy, right? Now they give us energy, but carbs cannot be settled down, or we cannot digest carbs as it is, so we put it in the simpler form, such as glucose. Hence glucose gives us the energy in the form of carbohydrates, right? Now amino acids are used to make proteins, and fatty acids and glycerol are deposited as fat under the skin. So basically fatty acids and glycerol are as fats and amino acids as proteins, glucose as carbs. Okay, now let's go to the large intestine. Right, now it is wider and shorter than the small intestine. Right, now it is about 1.5 meter long. Its function is to absorb water from the undigested food material. So the material that is not digested has to be absorbed. The water has to be absorbed there. Okay, and the material that cannot be digested uh, is stored in the rectum, in the semi-solid phases. Okay, now this facial matter is removed through the anus from time to time. This process is called egestion. This is the anus and this is the rectum. So here it is stored. Now the extra water or the waste, as in the urine, is also stored in the rectum so that it could go out whenever needed, from time to time basically. Right. This process is known as egestion. Okay, now let's go to ruminant animals. Ruminant animals are the animals which eat grass, like the sheep. Okay, they eat grass and they have a four-chambered stomach. So basically their stomach is divided into four chambers. Okay, four chambers. So this is four. Okay, now they quickly swallow the grass and store it as a part of the stomach, okay, called the rumen. So they store it in a part called rumen. Okay, now the food is swallowed and not chewed. Okay, so these animals swallow this food. Okay, they do not chew it, but the food is partially digested as cud and stored in the first chamber of the stomach, that is rumen. We studied in the last slide about which. Okay, cud. Okay, as cud, it is stored as cud. Now food returns to the mouth in small lumps and animal chews it. So whenever it wants some energy, it wants to have it, so it has the food, so the cud comes back to the mouth and the animal chews it. Now the chewing of cud is called as rumination. Okay, now the food is swallowed again and passes to the other chambers of the stomach. Now I don't think so you might be clear with this text, so I have also planned a slide for explaining you all this by a picture. Okay, so here is the process of rumination. You can just follow my cursor. Okay, so here's my cursor, you can see. Okay, now the cow cuts the grass and eats it. Now it goes inside. Okay, now it is stored here. Okay, now whenever it wants it, so it goes from here, under this. Okay, now it goes through the reticulum and goes into the mouth. Okay, the cow chews it. You might have seen the cows just standing and chewing something, so that's what is done. Okay, now it goes to the mouth, the cow chews it, and then it comes back and goes to the other chambers like the omism and abomasum, and then after that it finally goes to the intestine and then it goes out. Okay, so I hope now you are clear with this process. Okay, now I move upon to the digestion of cellulose. Now you might have been thinking that why can't humans digest cellulose, or why can't humans digest carbohydrates um, in a very complex form. So one of the complex form is cellulose, which we cannot digest as it is. Okay, why? Because the grass is rich in cellulose, a type of carbohydrate. Okay, we are studying in this slide only. Now in ruminants like cattle, deer, etc., bacteria present in rumen helps in the digestion of cellulose. which is not present in humans. That's the main point. So basically here I'm trying to tell you that rumen has a bacteria in it which helps in the digestion of cellulose. Okay, now many animals including humans cannot digest cellulose as written here. Now, animals like horses, rabbit, etc. have a large sac-like structure called the cecum between the esophagus and the small intestine. The cellulose of the food is digested here by action of certain bacteria which are not present in humans. So they have a large sac-like structure called the cecum between the esophagus and the small intestine. Okay, so it's something like this. Okay, this is the rumen, right? Now, this sac-like structure is known as the cecum between the esophagus and the small intestine. Now, the cellulose of the food is digested here by the action of certain bacteria which are not there in humans and also in some animals. Okay. Now, let's go to the amoeba. Okay. Now, what is an amoeba? Amoeba is a microscopic single-celled organism found in pond water. Amoeba has a cell membrane, rounded, dense vacuoles in a cytoplasm. This is the food vacuole, and this is the cytoplasm. Okay. Now, amoeba constantly changes its shape and position, pushes out one or more finger-like projections called pseudopodia or false feet for movement and capture of the food. Okay, so that it can capture the food, it takes out some finger-like projections called pseudopodia. Okay, I'll just write its spelling here. So it's Pseudopodia. Okay, pseudopodia. It's pronounced as pseudopodia. Okay, now these are basically the false feet for changing. Okay, for changing the positions. Basically, this is the food particle. Now, what will happen that these pseudopodia will cover the food particle and then engulf it. Okay, it will take it in, right? And then the digestion process will happen. So we'll study about that in the next slide. So in this slide basically we studied about the ingestion. Okay, so this was the ingestion. This was basically the process of ingestion, which we studied, that how the amoeba ingests the food. Okay, which is the first step basically. Now let's go to the feeding and digestion in the amoeba. Now, amoeba feeds on microscopic organisms. When it senses the food, it pushes out pseudopodia around the food particle and engulfs it, as I told you. Okay, now this food becomes trapped in the food vacuole. The digestive juices are secreted into the food vacuole. They act on the food and break it down into simpler substances. Okay, so that it can be digested. Now, gradually that digested food is absorbed. So once the food is digested, once digestion is done, like in humans, absorption is done by the villi in the small intestine. Same with the amoeba. So amoeba also absorbs the food. Now the absorbed substances are used for growth, maintenance and multiplication. So this is the assimilation process which we are studying here. Okay. Now the undigested residue of the food is expelled outside by the vacuole, basically ingested. Okay. Now thank you everyone for watching this video, but there's one thing that is left, an activity for you all, a quiz to do. So it's a 12 question quiz of the whole chapter of all the 4 parts. Okay, so there are 3 questions from each part. The links are given in the description for my previous videos of this chapter, and the quiz link is also in the description. So thank you everyone. Hope you liked my video. Please like, share and subscribe my channel. Thank you. Have a nice day.